So it teaches us that we have two emotions. And all positive emotions come out of love, and all negative emotions come out of fear. And that you're never, all this anxiety or, anger, guilt, pissed off, whatever you want to say, it's all fear. And some of us have a really hard time understanding that. But the more that we practice understanding it, the more we see really it is. It's just everything, all these reactions, all these concerns really have to do with my fear and how I might be affected. If you're guilty or if I'm guilty, will I have to pay? Or if you're doing something wrong, will I lose your love, or will you lose my love? And then what will I do if I'm all alone? And so it's just a constant merry-go-round of, never even realizing that the real problem is that I'm afraid. And so we try to manage our feelings, and we try to manage the guilt and anger, but we never really get anywhere, because at the root of all of that is the fear. And so what the Course is teaching us is that the other emotion, which is the one I want to talk about tonight, is that the real state of our being is love. And that our ego stems out of our fears, and that our love stems from our Holy Spirit. And that we can always choose love. Now, I think where many people run into trouble is that they think that love is a feeling, and it certainly is. It certainly has to do with feelings, because when you feel anything positive, just like when you feel anything negative, it's of the ego. When you're feeling all these positive feelings, it is from the place of love. But what I'd like to talk about tonight is that love really isn't so much a feeling as it's an action. And this is where so many people run into trouble, when they try this and they try that, and they why? How come I'm not happy yet? How come I'm not happy, joyous, and free? How come I'm not getting what I want in life? How come this isn't happening? How come that isn't happening? And it's because they're trying to find love. They're trying to get it rather than be it. And when we be what we want, then we find it, because it's not out there, it's inside. And we achieve that state of being of love by how we act. And so it's really important to differentiate this, that people are often saying, well, if you would just do this, then I'll be this, or I'll feel that. And that's not true. The action word of love is how you're treating yourself and others. It's not how you feel towards yourself and others. So if you want to have love, if you be love, you will have it, not only from yourself and toward yourself. You will be acting from that place in you of the Holy Spirit. And even if you don't believe in anything spiritual, I think I've never met anyone who said they don't believe in love. They may say, I don't believe it's ever going to happen for me, but the point is it already has happened for you, because you are love. But when you act from the place of the ego and from the fear and from the negativity, you never realize it, because that's where you act from, and that's what you get back. But when you be love and you act from that place of love, no matter what's going on, and I'm not expecting any of us, and myself included, to be this all the time, but this is the goal of the Course. When you act from that place in any situation, when you choose love rather than fear, you will have a different result. It's guaranteed, because love finds itself. That's what the Course teaches us. Love doesn't go where it's not wanted. Love will not venture out into the black hole. Love will magnify by finding love. And so if we're not being that, and we're not acting from that place, then we don't ever feel it. We can feel all kinds of things, but it's not love. And that's where addictions give us that fake feeling of love, of good feeling, or whatever we're trying to get out of it. but it's not love. And that's why after you engage in the addiction, there's that emptiness, there's that feeling of the ego telling you need more, 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 and whatever it is, whether it's food, whether it's, ice cream, whether it's drugs, whether it's sex, there's never enough of it, never. And so that's why you're not getting anything other than more ego-fed emptiness, loneliness, and in the box right where the ego wants us. So when we be love towards ourselves first. We recognize that we are in a physical form, and that physical form needs proper care, and it needs attention, and it needs nurturing, healthy food, and it needs to be properly cared for, just like any living thing. Any living thing needs proper care. And if you look out your window, you'll see that nature provides proper care to everything that you see that's in the ground. It gets the sunshine, it gets the rain, it gets the nutrients that it needs. So one thing about loving ourselves is that we give ourselves the nutrients that the body needs, and the proper nutrients. If you go out and pour a gallon of sugar on a plant and that's all the nutrient it gets, it's not going to go very far. So one of the main things of loving ourselves is to take proper care of our body, and then to take proper care of our mind. Our mind needs stimulation. Our mind needs to express its creativity. Our mind needs to be able to be fed with good things, with things that teach it, with things that inspire it. And so the spiritual, the meditation is really important for the mind, because we get certain feelings and messages from being quiet and going within and learning how to connect to that part of ourselves. That's an action. I can say I meditate, but we're better off to sit on the beach and appreciate the ocean than close our eyes and the mind's going round and round and round and round. There's many different ways to meditate, and some people are very good at getting their mind real still and quiet, and sometimes we can do it and sometimes we can't. It's not a contest, but it's the act of giving that nutrition to your mind, of quietness, of contemplation, of listening. And the listening may come in the form of just a sense of knowing. It may become in an idea that you get. It may be that you're inspired to do the right thing that you know is right for you. It could come in many different forms, but we have to get quiet enough to do that. That's the action. And to be able to rest enough. It's okay to work. It's okay to be on the go. It's okay to be productive. Those are very good and important things. But we also need to be able to rest our mind and rest our soul and rest our body. Because just like any machine, if you run it too hard and you don't take care of it, it's not going to serve you well. So these are some personal acts of love. And I know I've told all of you that I have that 101 acts of self-love. I think most of you, I've given it to you. I'm happy to provide it to you if you just email me. But there's just thousands and thousands of ways that we can choose love instead of fear. One of the things I suggest is from the minute you wake up in the morning, you just be grateful for having a pillow and for your blanket and for the rays of light coming through the window. Or even if you wake up in the middle of the night, to be grateful that you're safe and that everything's around you, the stars around, and it's okay. I'm not going to be afraid that I don't get enough sleep. I'm going to read something, or I'm going to listen to something that's calming and soothing, and not fight it. Or maybe sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I just start writing, and then I get tired and I go back to sleep. So it's just kind of like flowing with what things that are happening. They don't have to be a certain way, because if things have to be a certain way, I'm acting from fear. So acting from love is just kind of going with the flow and accepting things. And then, to remember that who's going to take the best care of you? You are going to take the best care of yourself. And that will be mirrored back to you. So many times we've been trained to be in this position from a religious posture of, if you do good things, if you do the right things, then God's going to take care of you. Well, God gave us everything we need to take care of ourselves. And when we stay plugged into our spiritual consciousness, we know how to do the right thing to take care of ourselves, and then good just happens. we don't need to be blaming God for bad things happening or good things happening. He gave us a mind, he gave us a spirit, he gave us the tools to be able to manifest. And we're taught that that's why we're here, to share and receive love. So when we're being the love that we want, then we attract that love. But when we stay in these hard shells and we stay in our ego and nothing's right and I can't change anything and it's never going to be okay and you just don't know and I know how you're going to act and I know what you're going to say and I know this and I know that, that's all the ego, keeping those walls up and keeping us in the box. The counterpart of that is when you choose to be love, you focus on being that no matter how else anyone is being. And it doesn't mean that sometimes we don't react and sometimes we don't get pulled into their vortex, but we don't have to stay there. And the minute we realize that we can ask that Holy Spirit to help, or we can just say, hey, I choose love instead of fear here. I choose to come at this from a different place than where that person's coming from. And so the Course teaches us through the meditations and the exercises that the more that we do that, the more that we can learn how to be that love that we want. And the more that we be the love, the more that we act from the place of love. And that means taking care of things now, not later. It means staying present. It means staying emotionally available and staying in a place of consciousness that is love. The more that we do that, the less attraction to anxiety, the less attraction to fear, the less that we are pulled into those vortexes of negativity. And the more that we will be happy, the more that we will feel good, the more we will feel connected, because let's face it, positivity attracts and negativity repels. And so the more that you are acting from that place of love, and the more that you're shifting your consciousness from your ego into that place of love, the more that you shift out of fear and into love, the more your light will shine, the more that you will attract light, and the more that you will attract all positivity. Anytime that your mind goes to that place of fear, you can just say, I know that there's an answer here. I know that this thing that I need will come to me. I don't have to worry about it. You know, we're taught that over and over and over again in the Course, not to worry, not to fret, not to be afraid. And yet our ego is so powerful and so trained and so strong that we have learned to just operate from that place of fear. And our ego thinks it knows everything. You know, I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I wouldn't be teaching the Course. I'd be selling all the perfect answers for everybody. But the crystal ball is the Course. The solution is just be love. Don't be fear. And act, you know, whether you believe it or not, act from the place of love. Act from the place of abundance. Act from the place of sharing and receiving, not from the place of withholding. So many times relationships get so jammed up. And you know, Paula and Ellen both gave us beautiful examples at the beginning of shifting perceptions, whether it's our own perception that shifted or someone's perception of us that shifts. But in either case, there was a choice for love instead of fear. And those relationships can bloom and blossom, and they begin to feel safe and trusting. And we're not all locked into, you know, I know how this is going to be, and this person's being controlling, or they don't trust me, or I know what's going to happen. We don't even think like that anymore. We simply understand that we are being the love, we feel good about it, and people will eventually come around to that or not. We have no control over anything but ourselves. So what we can do, and what the Course in Miracles teaches us, is if we're not coming from fear, we're not coming from any type of lack at all. There's no lack of anything other than our consciousness. And if our consciousness is about lack, that's what shows up. If our consciousness is about abundance, that's what shows up. And whether it's an abundance of friends, abundance of money, abundance of whatever you need, when you be that, when you act from that place of love, then you will attract that abundance. But when you be from the place of lack and withholding whatever that might be, whether it's your time or your money or your forgiveness, then that's what will reflect back to you. And that's why the Course says, I'm not a victim of the world I see. In any situation, we can manifest love by being the love that we want. And so often when I'm working with people, if he'll just do this or she'll just do that, and I say, no, you be that, and that's what you will attract. But as long as you're hanging on to your resentments, and as long as you're hanging on to the old pain and your fears, that's exactly what you will attract, and that's exactly what you will get. So try to keep in mind this as you go about into your week, that love is not so much the feeling. The feeling will show up in peace and joy and happiness. Then you'll know when you have those feelings that you have acted from the place of love. And when you act from that place of love, you are being the love that you want, and then you will feel it. So we have some people in the waiting room. I'm going to let them in, but I want to open it up for conversation and for your input, because your words are just as important as mine. Thank you.
I guess I could put a spin on what you said and what I was sharing earlier with my daughter-in-law. I think that the fact that she knows that I'm 100% sober now, I think that is what truly has opened her heart to let me do what she's letting me do.
Amen. Yes, being the love that you want. Yes.
Yeah.
You did the changing. It affected change in her and in the whole family dynamic.
And I so explained it to them in a way that I wanted them to know that as important as it was for me, not that I was a big drinker, but to change to not drink at all and make that choice, that was for me, and that was for my grandchildren.
Well, you made 100% commitment to love rather than a 90% commitment.
Correct.
And you're getting 100% result now rather than 90%.
Exactly. Right, because in the past, I don't think they really knew one way or the other. I don't think they were all that worried, but I don't think they also were. There was a question in their mind, is she or is she not?
There was a question in your mind. There was a question in your mind, and that got reflected back to you.
Yeah, I made it very perfectly clear that, it's 100% done.
Beautiful. Thank you, Paula. That's a great example.
Thank you.
Who else? I know some of you have had we've heard some really positive things this week. Some of you have had challenges this week for opportunities to have that shift from fear into love, which is not easy when things are challenging. So feel free to talk about that too. We have some people on Facebook. I'm just checking, see if anyone has questions or comments. Hi, Cindy.
Hi. So I had a lot of challenges this last week. My girlfriend passed away, and I was there with her, and I was grateful that I was there with her I wasn't there for actual passing, but I was there for initial stuff like going into the hospital with her and staying with her in an emergency room for 6 hours, and the being there that day, and of course being involved with her partner and her sister was interesting, because I was more involved in her medical appointments and a lot of doing of things. And then it got real interesting because these other people came in, and I haven't really been real appreciative of her boyfriend because he has not really been there for her. He hasn't been able to take her to medical appointments or get her medications or do many things. And in many ways, he's held her like a prisoner. He hasn't gotten her the food she needs and a lot of things. So I just really haven't liked him. But I found myself in a position where because he's a really bad stage 4 alcoholic and doesn't like to drive too much, I found myself in the position of having to take him to hospice on the last day that she was here on Earth. And I found that to be really okay. Like I asked the Holy Spirit to be with me, and he behaved, and I drove him, and we managed to get along, and I was really, I think, sending him some positive vibes and trying to, that was just really kind of hard for me because I'm not really fond of him. And so I just really realized that, this was really hard for him, and it was just mind blowing for him because he was stunned. He didn't expect this to happen. So I tried to be comforting for him, and that's just one of my, but I have a whole bunch of Course in Miracles stuff that was going on all the time.
Well, she's very lucky that she had a best friend who stuck by her and had to watch her self-inflicted wounds slowly kill herself, and yet you continued to come from the place of love, and you acted from the place of love, and you have complete peace. Her boyfriend doesn't, but you do. Sorry?
That is so true. I said that is very, very, very true. I have little tiny thoughts of, oh, I could have done this or I could have done that, but really what I have is peace. I have extreme peace, and I'm just surprised because I've been working, I guess, with the Course in Miracles, and I'm a very empathetic person naturally. I'm surprised at some of the things that happen, and I don't work in the healthcare industry, but if I did, I would probably be shocked. But another thing that happened is that her sister flew in. It was a coincidence the very week that she was diagnosed with this going to be very, very fast situation where she was going to be leaving us. And that was just a coincidence that her sister came in. Well, her sister came in, and then we didn't know how long my friend had. So I thought she maybe had, a few more weeks. They thought she had her boyfriend, and the sister thought she had months, so they were planning all these things, like to send her to a nursing home or bring her back home and have 24-hour care and not keep her at hospice. And I intuitively knew this wasn't going to be that long, but I couldn't say anything. Anyway, so the sister flew out literally the day before she passed over. And I was saying to her, the day before, I said, well, do you have to leave now? And she said, oh, I have responsibilities. And I quietly said, well, we all do. But so she left, and no sooner got back to her small town in Colorado when she was called and told that her sister was going to pass soon, and that that was going to happen. And she found out that the boyfriend was not able to function in a capacity where he could actually be with my girlfriend and hold her hand through her end here on Earth. And so she got on a plane and flew back to hold her sister's hand through that, and she just made it. I mean, she literally walked in the door at 8:30 at night at hospice, and her sister left us at 10:30. So she made it within 2 hours. And I was very impressed with that love, and I was very happy that she came back because she's next of kin, and so was the boyfriend. I wasn't. So she was allowed for that, and I was really, really happy because I almost thought in a way that her sister didn't have a heart from some of the things, but she did, and I was pleased with that. So, but then on the other side, today I happened to speak to her because we're talking about writing the obituary, and she told me that she was upset with the boyfriend because he couldn't be there with her sister to hold her hand through the end, and that she had to fly all the way back from Colorado to do that, so her sister didn't die alone. So she was actually kind of resenting this, and I'm thinking, I was just like, I'm still stunned. I'm like thinking,
well, her anger was covering up her guilt, was covering up her fear that she did something wrong by not being there for her sister.
I'm sorry, say that again, because I just think it was a gift that she had that last moments with her sister, you know, and I guess I didn't understand what you said. I'm sorry.
I said her anger with the boyfriend was covering up her own guilt that she did something wrong, the fear that she did something wrong by not being there for her sister.
Okay, that makes sense.
But you're at peace because you were there.
Anyway.
You were there and you chose to be the love that you would want. And you took the action of taking her to appointments and taking her to her last meal and taking her to the hospital and getting her squared away in a safe place so she could pass on. And you gave her peace. You gave her love. And that none of this other stuff matters.
Right. That's true. It's true. Thank you very much for that.
And thank you for sharing that. I know this was a huge loss for you, and you tried everything you could to help her. And
yes,
she couldn't be helped, and it got her.
No, and it was a frustration for me because I wanted to help her, and I wanted her to help herself, and I wanted to make a difference, and that wasn't something that I could do except for be there.
Yeah.
Not abandon her.
Right.
You know?
That's the problem with the ego. It takes us so far down the hole that we can't ever get out. But you loved her through that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Who else would like to share? Thank you, Lexi. Some responses on Facebook. So if you just joined us, the lecture was on love as an action word, not a feeling. And I'm recording it on Facebook Live, and it will be shared there. So if you'd like to hear it, if you missed it, you will be able to watch it on Facebook. So if anybody would like to share about how they've been able to recognize in themselves or others we've had some great examples tonight. Ellen shared with us how she chose to see an in-law as someone who was trying to share love rather than be controlling, and Paula shared with making the action of a complete commitment to loving herself and being completely free of any substances, that her daughter-in-law was able to completely turn over the care of her hopefully future adopted daughter to Paula's care. And Cindy shared with us this beautiful example of unconditionally loving someone who was destroying themselves, but without enabling, but being there for her at her time of transition to the other side when no one else really could for whatever reason. So if anyone else would like to share with us some examples of how they've been able to act from the place of love rather than fear of the ego, please help. I have a chat here. I had difficulty getting to the Zoom class. Yes, when I'm lecturing, it's real difficult for me to focus on admitting people too, so I tried to do that as much as I could, but we're happy you're here now. I usually wait until about 5, 6, 7 minutes after the hour before I start the lecture, so that I give everybody an opportunity to arrive a few minutes late because things happen. But if you miss the lecture and I don't notice it because I'm enthralled in, talking with all of you, and I don't see the admit button, you can always watch the lecture on Facebook, and I will let you in as soon as the lecture is over. So who else would like to share with us on love is an action, not a feeling? Your experiences are way as important as anything I have to say. Get closer to the mic so we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Nice to be here this evening with all of you, and really appreciate the shares. And what comes up for me is simply being able to, love myself more than I used to be able to. So, I've always had these critical voices in my head telling me that I'm not doing enough all the time. And so this week, I think it's slowly paying off that every time I appreciate, the different struggles that I go through, and even if I don't accomplish, sometimes like I'll close my eyes for a minute and open them and go, look at something that I haven't dealt with. And I usually, heal that by looking at something I have been dealing with while I'm not dealing with something else. And I'll say, you're going to get there, I'll give myself a little loving parent talk and say, hey, right now you can only handle this, and you'll get to the next part of whatever it is. So it's been strangely working. And I managed to just go through tons of, bins of papers that accumulate from the mail and things that need to be filed. So I was really as though at work for a couple of days, just filing a bunch of stuff. And so I was getting more organized, and I'm doing that because I'm trying to deal with my taxes. But the other piece was that I also wanted to clear up my just the mess and be able to go and buy myself a new car, because my car is like on its last legs. So, but I had to have a communication piece with a friend of mine can be really strong-minded about how to go about getting a car and whether to lease or whether to buy, and it felt narrow-minded to me, and my back goes up when I'm dealing with somebody who. So this friend of mine, of course, I value, his intelligence and his financial savvy, but at the same time, I wanted to be able to make my own choice. So I wanted feedback without being slammed to the wall. So I just communicated it really kindly. And asked, I said, I know that you really feel strongly about buying, leasing, and I would rather buy. So how about you work with my mind? And these are the pieces that I'm going in with, and, give me some financial sort of ways to negotiate and things like this. But I'm saying that because, I could make this person the enemy. It's always easy to make, in my world, somebody an enemy, oh my God, they don't listen, always an opinionated, narrow-minded person. And of course, I feel like that's a lot of rant from old memories of a lot of family members, but there's a lot of that in the world. And I just went at it from a place of, okay, I'm going to keep an open mind, and I'm going to ask for what I need specifically. I need your ears on, and I need you to respond in the way that I'd like to handle it with my information in that brain of yours. And it actually went really well with this person. And it healed a lot of fears that I had, of speaking up about something. The difficulty I have is I grew up with, like my mother was always, and they were all brainiacs. My mother, my brother, and my father. And I was always, in their minds, I was always the idiot. Because I didn't come at anything the same way they did. And I know I was not, but now I know it much better. Now I just say, hey, okay, I like your mind, and I also can see there's other ways to, slice an onion. So please consider.
Don't discount my mind either.
Yeah, So, but I come at it gently, and it seems to have a good turnover of, the response was good. That his defenses didn't go up, and he was also helpful. So I felt better about it, and I guess that's all I have to share. But I just feel like when I come at it lovingly, the outcome is much better.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. When you act from the place of love, you will receive in kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and I put my fear is that you're going to tell me what to do. And I said, I really need for you to be able to listen to me and not tell me what to do. Just help me, figure out what my options are, with this, which is what I'd like to do specifically. So at least I got clear and wasn't going to be blaming this person for the way they see things,
Or to fall into the role of being that less than member of the family.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's such a horrible feeling, and I'm over it. One day at a time.
Thank you.
Terrible feeling. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jolie. Yeah, we get assigned roles as kids, and then we believe those roles rather than to believe that we are perfectly capable, and we are love, and that we have a purpose and a mission, and that if we're not being the love, if we're not coming from that place, well, we can't fulfill that purpose and mission.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So often with we talked about addiction. So often with addiction, people think, well, I am showing myself love. I'm giving myself the comfort of the, relaxing with a drink, or having my favorite dessert, or, I'm under so much stress when I get on the internet, it relaxes me. But that is not love. Love is not like the quick fix or the superficial type of relief. Love is where you actually are giving yourself the, no more than any other plant or living thing, like I talked about at the beginning of the lecture. We're not designed for that. We're designed to give each other time and attention, give ourselves time and attention in healthy ways, and taking good care of ourselves. That's the action of love. And so you might get a temporary feeling that feels good, but then that leaves that void there after. And that void just grows and grows and grows. So you need more of that behavior, and the ego will keep telling you, you just need this, you just need this, you just need this, you just need this. And all the while that void is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're never ever getting that sense of peace and joy and fulfillment. You feel full and you feel fulfilled. You're never getting that from the addiction. You only get that from being the love that you want, that action of self-love. Not substitutes, but the actions of self-love. Who else would like to share? We have some more time. If there's any questions on the FaceTime. Hi, Joseph. Hi, Jerry on FaceTime. Lexi. If nobody has anything else, we'll wrap it up, but I'll give it another chance here. Happy to see all of you tonight. Great shares, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
My shirt smells like formula, so it's a great reminder.
Baby formula.
Yeah.
Better than baby barf.
Oh, I wouldn't even have cared if it was baby bar.
That's why, you know, when you're in the right consciousness to have a baby, it feels so good because you are just sharing love and caring for, and you're getting that wonderful feeling from not caring about anything other than taking care of that precious, new, innocent life.
Totally.
But that's how God sees all of us, and we're reminded of that in the Course, that we may not have that little new, fresh, you know, bud of new life, but God sees us still in that innocence.
I feel like I'm in a new life.
Well, you are.
I know. It's wonderful.
Yes. Yes. It is wonderful, and it's wonderful to witness.
And I thank you for it.
Well, I thank you. Gives me great joy.
Exit the maze.
Right. Anyone else?
I guess I'll share. I had something happen this week at a new job that I'm at. My immediate supervisor said something really just outrageous. It's like a classic, "You got to be kidding me! You think that's okay to say?" kind of thing. And
to you or just generally?
To me, but I know, you know, it's nothing personal. Like certain things, when people go there, that's their modus operandus, and I can be very competitive. It's not something that's on the surface. It's something that, you know, it's and again, that's rooted in other stuff that I struggle with. And their training there is they don't have it together, and of course I am intelligent enough to go, you know, here's what's not fitting together, here's what's not fitting together. And then the person that they hired like 2 weeks after me, she was like, "Well, Christian seems to be getting it," and, you know, and she wasn't there, but I was like, oh, immediately I was like, "Donna, don't say to her, do you talk to your children that way?" I was like, just shut up and give yourself a day to get over it. It's like, you know how incredibly inappropriate that is. And just to not like really, really, really just like literally quit. You know, just like, okay, I'm not dealing with this person. And again, I don't know if this situation is going to work out or not, but for me to really not completely internalize that and go, well, you know, I maybe I am stupid, maybe I should be getting it. Of course, I went through all of that stuff, but you know, the universe has a way, God has a way of giving you the answers. And not one, but two other colleagues basically said, yeah, this the way it's organized is a wreck. And one of the other colleagues, and this fella is extremely smart, basically said she's really not qualified for what she's doing. And I was like, whew, yeah. And I just said, okay, you know, I kept my mouth shut, and I got my answer that, you know, okay, you know, yeah, okay, maybe I'm not smart enough, but, you know, I'm being told by other people, neither is she. So that was nice that, you know, for a change, I didn't just take it so hard and have it linger for days and days and days.
Right. Well, that's a good example of love as an action word, where your ego's told you probably a lot of things you could have said to her, and yet you restrained yourself. That's an action, loving action, because had you not done that, you might have gotten that immediate relief of getting it out, but then there would have been a consequence that she would have felt bad and you would have felt bad too. after that temporary, victory wore off. And then also, then you're able to have a sense of humor about the whole thing, which is also a choice. If we can keep our sense of humor on, we can laugh at a lot of things that the ego would have us reacting to. And I also like it that you embraced your reaction. You couldn't, this is what I'm feeling, but you didn't judge it, and you just, because you didn't judge it and fight it and wrangle with it, you were able to step back from it. And be the observer rather than the reactor.
And yes, to have a certain amount of acceptance of like, okay, this is who I am. I know I'm having a clue as to why I'm reacting this way, and even that, just to accept it instead of fight it. It's like, well, I am who I am. I've been what I've been through, and how I feel is how I feel. How I react is the real challenge, which I'm not always great at it, but it was nice to just kind of go, this is her. If she had a clue, she would know. You never say something like that.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We have 5 more minutes.
I'd like to add something. This is Lorena.
Hi.
That yesterday I had, and I'm trying to help him out, and he was doing something that was really counterproductive to his health and his welfare. And I've been seeing him do it for quite a while, and I didn't say anything. And yesterday I said, I'm going to say something to him, because if I care enough about him, I need to tell him that what you're doing is very detrimental to your well-being. So I called him and I said, let me tell you something. And after I told him, I said, this is not an argument, it's not a problem. I said, but I see that you have all these health issues and you're doing X, Y, and Z. And I know that you don't want to kill yourself. I know that the person that you're dealing with has you in a toxic relationship. And you need to evaluate how you are going to handle that. Because do you care more about that person that you're dealing with, or you're dealing with yourself? And I felt a lot better that I had talked to him about that than I did when I was keeping it all to myself and just walking around with that on my chest. So that sometimes when you say things to someone, I think about it so I could not be confrontational.
You were coming from love, not anger or guilt or...
It was conversational. And he kind of thought about it and said that I'm going to give this relationship I'm having with this other person some real thought. I mean, they're not having a love relationship, but you sometimes see people in a one-on-one friend relationship, and that person that they are friends with, they don't need to be with that person because of the things that person gets them involved in. Everyone is not able to see how their relationship is toxic or non-productive to what they're doing. Sometimes we need to speak up and encourage our friends to look at what is going on in your life and where is it that you plan on going with whatever it is that you're doing. Sometimes, you can get into a spot where you don't realize how deep you're falling down in the rabbit hole until someone says, you need to look up and look around and see the kind of people that you're surrounding yourself with. And is that what you want to do? Is that where you want to go? And think about that, and give them the option to make that decision, not make that decision for them. But, it seemed to have worked out pretty good, and we both felt a lot better because he said, I felt some kind of stress around you sometimes. And so now that's cleared out. We said that, I've said that, and he feels, and we both have I feel, as one of my friends said, don't get all caught up in your feelings sometimes when you talk to somebody. You have to get out of your feelings and see how they would feel if you said that to them. Well, they said that to you, I mean.
Come from love, not
yes.
judgment. Come from love.
Yes. Because we do get caught up in our feelings.
Yes. Yes, we do. And especially the ego.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and I don't remember seeing you before. I'm glad you joined us.
Oh, this is my first time, and I wanted to become a part of the community. That's why I was upset that I could not find you all and get there earlier. I've been at this for a while. I don't know. I'm not that computer literate, so I have difficulties sometimes when it comes to getting back to something. I look forward to this for the first time you put it up, and then today I couldn't get it. So, but I was determined.
Well, you figured it out, so now you know.
Yes.
Welcome.
We're happy you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorena. Okay. Well, that'll conclude our evening. And I love all of you. I'm so happy you're here. And next week we will be reading out of the book and discussing the Course in Miracles book. Every other week we do the lecture. So have a beautiful week and have lots of miracles and be the love that you are.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank
you, Donna.
Bye, everybody.
Love everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.